She hit the marble floor so hard that the tray exploded across the restaurant, sending shattered glasses and silverware skidding in every direction. A sharp cry escaped her lips before she clutched her stomach with both hands. I can't move," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It hurts." The entire dining room fell silent. Every pair of eyes turned toward the very curvy waitress lying helplessly on the polished floor. Her name was Giulia Romano, a 33-year-old Italian woman from Florence. She was known throughout the restaurant for her warm smile, gentle heart, and the graceful confidence she carried, despite her very big, plus-size figure. Her soft curves and chubby frame often made cruel people underestimate her, but everyone who truly knew Giulia admired her kindness more than anything else. Tonight, however, kindness had abandoned the room. The restaurant manager stormed toward her, his face burning with embarrassment. "For heaven's sake, Giulia," he snapped. "Stand up. You're making a scene in front of our most important customer." Giulia winced, tears filling her brown eyes. I really can't." The manager leaned closer. "I don't care if you're hurt. Get up." Several customers looked away, pretending not to notice. Others simply watched. No one moved. No one, except one man. A chair slowly scraped against the marble floor. Every heartbeat inside the restaurant seemed to stop. The city's most feared mafia don had just stood up. Luca Moretti, 6'4", broad shoulders, cold hazel eyes. His black tailored shirt was unbuttoned just enough to reveal intricate tattoos stretching across his chest, climbing over his neck and disappearing beneath the sleeves rolled to his forearms. Skulls, roses, serpents, crosses, and ancient Italian symbols covered nearly every inch of his muscular body. Even sitting still, he terrified people. Standing, he was even worse. His men immediately straightened behind him. Nobody breathed. Luca looked at Giulia for several silent seconds. Then his icy gaze shifted toward the manager. "What happened?" His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The manager immediately forced a nervous smile. "Nothing serious, Signor Moretti." Luca didn't blink. I asked. His tone became colder. "What happened?" One of the customers quickly spoke. "She slipped." Another customer shook his head. "No, she didn't." The room grew tense. An elderly woman stood from her table. "I saw everything." She pointed toward a young man wearing an expensive gray suit. He pushed her. The restaurant instantly erupted into whispers. The man laughed. "It was an accident." Luca slowly turned toward him. "It wasn't." The young man shrugged. "So what?" Giulia tried to push herself up. Pain shot through her body. She gasped. "I can't." She collapsed again. Luca's jaw tightened. He finally spoke. "Lock every door." Silence. His bodyguards immediately moved. Within seconds, every entrance was sealed. The man in the gray suit suddenly looked nervous. "What are you doing?" Luca ignored him. Instead, he knelt beside Giulia. The entire restaurant gasped. Nobody had ever seen Luca Moretti kneel for anyone. His voice softened. "Look at me." Giulia struggled to open her eyes. I'm sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. I dropped your dinner." "I don't care." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "It hurts." "I know." He removed his expensive jacket and gently placed it beneath her head. The manager's face turned pale. Luca looked over his shoulder. "Call my doctor." One of his men immediately answered. "He's already on the way, boss." The young man in the gray suit suddenly laughed again. "Seriously?" He looked around the room. "The great Luca Moretti is playing hero for a waitress?" Nobody laughed with him. Luca slowly stood. The tattooed don walked toward him without saying a word. The man swallowed. "You've got the wrong idea." Another step. "I barely touched her." Another step. "People are exaggerating." Luca stopped inches away. "You pushed a woman." It wasn't. You watched her fall. You smiled. The man's confidence disappeared. It was just a joke. Luca looked into his terrified eyes. My mother taught me something. No one dared interrupt. She said the way a man treats women tells the world exactly who he is. The man tried to back away. The bodyguards blocked him. I didn't know she was hurt. You didn't care. I said, I'm sorry. Luca's expression never changed. My doctor will decide how badly she's injured. And then, Luca answered without hesitation, then I'll decide what happens to you. The man's face lost all color. Across the room, Julia struggled to breathe. One waitress rushed over. Julia squeezed her friend's hand. I'm scared. You'll be okay. I don't think I will. Don't say that. I feel. She closed her eyes. Something's wrong. Just then, the restaurant doors burst open. A middle-aged doctor hurried inside, carrying a medical bag. Everyone stepped aside. He knelt beside Julia immediately. Tell me where it hurts. My back. She winced. And my stomach. The doctor's expression changed instantly. Don't move. He carefully examined her. Luca watched every movement. After nearly a minute, the doctor looked up. We're wasting time. How bad? I won't know until we get to the hospital. Luca didn't hesitate. Prepare my vehicle. One bodyguard spoke into his earpiece. It's ready. The manager finally found his voice. Sir, perhaps an ambulance. Luca cut him off. My armored SUV will reach the hospital faster. He turned toward Julia again. I'm taking you myself. Her eyes widened. Why? Because you need help. I don't even know you. You don't have to. I can't pay hospital bills. I didn't ask you to. I'm just a waitress. Luca's voice remained calm. You're a human being. Those words broke something inside her. For months, no one had spoken to her with that kind of compassion. She burst into tears. I've been trying so hard. Luca frowned. Trying to do what? Survive. Before she could say another word, a sharp pain shot through her body. She cried out. The doctor looked alarmed. We have to leave now. Without asking permission, Luca bent down. His tattooed arms carefully lifted the very curvy woman into his embrace, as though she weighed nothing at all. The restaurant watched in complete disbelief. Julia buried her face against his shoulder, embarrassed. I'm sorry. You apologize too much. I don't want to cause trouble. You didn't. I ruined your evening. My evening isn't important. She looked up. Why are you being kind to me? Luca didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked into her tear-filled eyes. Because someone should be. As he carried her toward the exit, an older customer quietly wiped away tears. I've lived 73 years, the woman whispered to her husband. I never thought I'd see Luca Moretti carry someone like that. Outside, heavy rain poured over Milan. The bodyguards opened umbrellas. Luca carefully placed Julia inside the luxury armored SUV. The doctor climbed in beside her. Just before Luca entered the vehicle, one of his men approached. The man who pushed her. Luca looked back toward the restaurant. Keep him there. For how long? Luca's eyes turned cold again. Until I return. The terrified man inside overheard those words through the open doorway. His knees nearly gave out. As the SUV sped through the rain toward the hospital, Julia fought to stay conscious. Luca. It was the first time she had spoken his name. He looked at her. Stay with me. I'm trying. Keep talking. She managed a weak smile. I've never ridden in a car this expensive. He almost smiled. You'll ride in it again. You sound sure. I am. She stared at him. Why? Before he could answer, the doctor suddenly froze during his examination. His eyes widened. He looked directly at Luca. Boss. His voice had become tense. I've found something, and I think you need to hear it immediately. If this opening pulled you into Julia and Luca's story, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment telling us what you think the doctor has discovered. The biggest twists are still ahead. The doctor took a slow breath before speaking. "Boss, she's pregnant." The words seemed to silence even the sound of the rain pounding against the armored SUV. Julia's eyes flew open. "No." Tears instantly spilled down her cheeks. "No, please." She grabbed the doctor's wrist with trembling fingers. "Please don't tell anyone." Luca stared at her. "You didn't know?" She slowly shook her head. I suspected it." Her voice cracked. "I was too afraid to get tested." The doctor spoke gently. "The fall may have caused internal bleeding. We won't know the baby's condition until we run emergency scans." Julia covered her face and broke down completely. "No, please, not my baby." Luca remained silent, but his jaw tightened. "Drive faster," he ordered. The driver pressed harder on the accelerator. Within minutes, the SUV screeched to a stop outside one of Milan's finest private hospitals. Doctors and nurses were already waiting. As Julia was wheeled inside, she reached for Luca's hand without thinking. "Please." He stepped beside the stretcher. "I'm here. Don't leave." "I won't." Those 3 words calmed her enough to let the medical team rush her through the emergency doors. Nearly an hour passed. Luca stood outside the operating room with his tattooed arms folded across his chest. His black shirt was soaked from carrying Julia through the rain, exposing more of the elaborate tattoos covering his neck, chest, shoulders, and forearms. His men remained unusually quiet. No one dared interrupt his thoughts. Finally, the doctor walked out. Luca stepped forward immediately. "Tell me, the bleeding has stopped." Luca released a slow breath. "And the baby?" "The baby's heartbeat is strong." For the first time that night, relief softened Luca's expression. "But," the doctor continued, "she must avoid stress. Another violent incident could be devastating." Luca nodded once. "Make sure she receives the best care." "She already is." "No." Luca reached into his pocket and handed over a black card. "I didn't say excellent." He looked directly into the doctor's eyes. "I said the best." The doctor understood. "I'll personally oversee everything." Hours later, Julia slowly opened her eyes. The room was quiet. For a brief moment she forgot everything. Then memories rushed back. The fall, the pain, the baby. Her breathing became uneven. "My baby." A familiar voice answered from across the room. "The baby's alive." She turned. Luca was sitting near the window. He hadn't left. "You stayed." "I said I would." Fresh tears gathered in her eyes. No one has ever kept their word like that. He stood and walked over. "How are you feeling?" "Sore." She forced a smile. "But alive." "The doctor said you'll recover." She nodded. Then fear returned. "I have to leave. You just got here. I can't stay." "Why?" "They'll find me." "Who?" She hesitated. "You don't want that trouble. Let me decide." Julia looked away. "You don't understand. Help me understand." She closed her eyes. "My ex-fiancé." Luca remained silent. "He wasn't just abusive." Her hands began shaking. "He worked for the DeSantis family." Luca's eyes narrowed. "One of Italy's most violent rival mafia organizations. He wanted to marry me because his father ordered it. Why? I don't know. When I tried leaving," her voice broke, "he almost killed me." She instinctively touched an old scar near her shoulder. "I escaped 6 months ago. And you've been hiding ever since." She nodded. "I changed cities. I changed jobs. I stopped talking to everyone. I just wanted a normal life." She placed both hands over her stomach. "I wanted my baby to have one." Luca looked at her for several seconds. Then he quietly said, "That won't happen." Her heart sank. "I knew it. I knew they'd find me." He shook his head. "That's not what I meant." She looked up. "I meant, His voice became firm. They won't touch you again. Meanwhile, across the city, inside a luxurious villa, a furious man slammed a whiskey glass against the wall. Marco DeSantis, 36, cold, handsome, cruel, one of the most dangerous captains in his family's organization. A bodyguard hurried inside. "We found her." Marco froze. "Where?" "A restaurant in Milan." He smiled. "So?" He slowly poured another drink. "My little fiancée finally stopped running." The bodyguard hesitated. "There is one problem." "What?" "She left with Luca Moretti." The glass slipped from Marco's hand. "What did you say?" "Luca Moretti." Marco's expression darkened. "No." He whispered the word. Then louder. "No!" Everything inside the office became a target. He flipped a desk, destroyed paintings, smashed bottles. His men remained silent. Finally he stopped, his breathing heavy. "This changes everything." One lieutenant cautiously asked, "What are your orders?" Marco's eyes burned with rage. "I don't care how many men it takes. I don't care how much blood is spilled. Bring Julia back, alive. And Luca." Marco smiled. "I'll kill him myself." Back at the hospital, Julia had finally fallen asleep. Luca quietly stepped into the hallway. His most trusted lieutenant, Matteo, approached. "We've confirmed something. Talk. The man who pushed her. What about him?" "It wasn't random." Luca's expression hardened. "He was paid." "By who?" "We're still investigating." Before Matteo could continue, another guard rushed toward them. "Boss." "What?" "We searched the man's phone. And?" "He received payment this afternoon." Luca extended his hand. "Show me." The screen displayed a recent transfer. No sender's name. Only one symbol. A black wolf. Luca's eyes immediately narrowed. "I know that mark." Matteo looked shocked. "The DeSantis family." Luca nodded. "So they found her." Matteo frowned. "Who exactly is she?" Luca looked through the hospital window toward Julia's room. "I don't think even she knows." The next morning, Julia slowly walked toward the hospital window. She was still sore, but determined. Luca entered carrying breakfast. "You should be resting." She smiled awkwardly. "I've never been good at following orders." "I noticed." He placed the tray down. "You haven't eaten." "I wasn't hungry." "You are now." She laughed softly. "Is that another order?" "Yes." She took a bite. It was the first proper meal she'd eaten in days. "Thank you." "For what?" "For treating me like I matter." "You do. You barely know me." "I know enough." She looked at him curiously. "What do you know?" "I know you're brave." She blinked. "No. You are. I've spent months terrified. And yet," he pointed gently toward her stomach, "you kept fighting." She smiled through tears. "I'm trying." "I know." There was a brief silence. Then something caught Luca's attention. Around Julia's neck, a delicate silver necklace had slipped out from beneath her hospital gown. His eyes widened. He slowly reached toward it. "Where did you get this?" She instinctively held it. "It belonged to my mother." His breathing stopped. "Your mother's name?" She smiled sadly. "Sofia Romano." The color drained from Luca's face. Impossible. 25 years earlier, a fearless woman named Sofia Romano had sacrificed her own life to save Luca's little sister during a kidnapping. Before dying, she had been wearing that exact necklace. Luca remembered every detail, the tiny engraving, the worn silver chain, even the small crack near the clasp. There was no mistake. He looked back at Julia, his voice barely above a whisper. "Julia." She noticed the emotion in his eyes. "What is it?" He stared at the necklace. "I knew your mother." Julia froze. "What?" "I owe her more than I could ever repay." Before either of them could say another word, the hospital lights suddenly flickered. Then every monitor went dark. A loud alarm echoed through the building. One of Luca's bodyguards burst into the room. Boss! Luca immediately turned. What happened? The guard's face had gone pale. The power outage wasn't an accident. He drew his weapon. They're here. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. And let us know in the comments, do you think Luca can protect Julia and her baby, or has the real danger only just begun? The emergency lights flashed red across the hallway. They're here, the bodyguard repeated. Luca didn't hesitate. Get Julia behind me. Two guards instantly formed a protective shield around the hospital bed. Julia's heart pounded. Who's here? Luca looked at her. The people you've been running from. Before she could answer, the sound of gunfire echoed through the corridor. Patients screamed. Doctors rushed people into nearby rooms. Luca calmly unbuttoned the rest of his black dress shirt, revealing the full-body tattoos covering his muscular chest, shoulders, arms, neck, and back. The ink told the story of every battle he had survived. Roses for family, serpents for betrayal, a crucifix for redemption, and skulls for every enemy who had tried to destroy him. He looked at Matteo. Get her out through the east wing. And you? I'm ending this. No, Julia cried. She grabbed his hand. You'll get killed. He gave her a reassuring look. I've survived worse. I don't want anyone dying because of me. You aren't the reason. He gently squeezed her hand. They started this. They're ending it. Another burst of gunfire exploded nearby. Luca kissed the back of her trembling hand. Trust me. Before she could stop him, he disappeared into the hallway. Marco DeSantis slowly walked through the hospital lobby with 8 armed men. Doctors scattered in fear. Patients hid beneath benches. Marco smiled coldly. Find Julia. One of his men nodded. Yes, boss. Luca stepped into the center of the hallway. Looking for someone? Marco laughed. So the famous Luca Moretti finally wants to play protector. Luca remained expressionless. You brought guns into a hospital. I'll bring whatever I want. You've crossed a line. Marco shrugged. I crossed it the day she ran from me. Luca's voice turned icy. She didn't run. She escaped. Marco's smile vanished. She belongs to me. No. Luca took one slow step forward. No woman belongs to anyone. Marco's eyes filled with hatred. Kill him. Gunfire erupted. Luca's men answered immediately. The hallway became chaos. Marco escaped through a side exit, while his remaining men covered his retreat. Matteo rushed toward Luca. They're heading for the parking garage. Luca sprinted without another word. Meanwhile, Julia sat inside Luca's armored SUV beneath the hospital. Her breathing was uneven. She kept thinking about Luca. Please be okay. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed through the garage. Hello, Julia. Her blood turned cold. Marco stepped from the shadows. 3 armed men surrounded the vehicle. The driver reached for his weapon. Too late. The window shattered. Within seconds, Marco's men dragged Julia from the SUV. She struggled desperately. Let me go. Marco grabbed her face. You've caused me enough embarrassment. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I'm never going back. You don't have a choice. I'd rather die. His expression darkened. You almost will. He noticed her protective hands over her stomach. So, he smirked. The rumors were true. Julia instinctively stepped backward. Don't. Marco laughed. Is it mine? She refused to answer. His silence became his answer. He raised his pistol. If I can't have my family, he pointed it toward her stomach. Neither can you. A gunshot rang out. Marco screamed. His pistol flew from his hand. Luca stood across the garage, smoke rising from his weapon. His eyes burned with fury. Touch her again. His voice was calm, but terrifying. And you won't leave here alive. Marco clutched his bleeding hand. You chose the wrong woman. Luca slowly walked toward him. No, I chose the right one. A brutal fight erupted. Neither man held back. Punch after punch echoed through the garage. Marco reached for another gun. Julia saw it first. "Luca!" Without thinking, she threw herself forward. The shot fired. Pain exploded through her shoulder. She collapsed. "Julia!" Everything inside Luca changed. He charged Marco with overwhelming force, disarmed him, and knocked him to the ground. Police sirens echoed outside. Marco tried to crawl away. Luca stopped him with one final blow. "It's over." The police stormed into the garage. Marco and his remaining men were arrested. As officers led him away, Marco glared at Julia. "This isn't finished." Luca stepped between them. "It is now." Hours later, Julia woke in another hospital room. Her shoulder was bandaged. The first face she saw was Luca's. He hadn't left. Again, she smiled weakly. "You look terrible." He laughed softly. "So do you." She reached for his hand. "Did I save you?" "You did. I wasn't very brave. You took a bullet for me. I was terrified." "Courage isn't the absence of fear." He squeezed her hand. "It's choosing someone else's life over your own." She cried quietly. "I thought I was going to lose you. You won't. I can't promise forever. You don't have to. I'll choose you every day I wake up." She stared into his eyes. "Why?" "Because somewhere along the way," he smiled, "the woman I was protecting became the woman I love." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "I love you too." Before either could say another word, an older detective entered. "We recovered everything." Luca looked up. "What everything?" "The necklace." Julia frowned. "My necklace?" The detective nodded. "It wasn't ordinary." The clasp opened to reveal a tiny hidden compartment. Inside was a microfilm and a handwritten note. Luca carefully unfolded the faded paper. It was written by Sofia Romano. "If my daughter is reading this one day, know that I loved you with all my heart." These names expose the men who ordered innocent families murdered. "Trust only the man who carries the serpent and the cross upon his skin. He will protect you when I no longer can." Julia looked at Luca in disbelief. The serpent. She touched the tattoo winding across his forearm. And the cross. Luca realized Sofia had known his father decades earlier. She had hidden evidence exposing corrupt politicians, businessmen, and mafia leaders who had secretly manipulated both criminal families. Thanks to that evidence, dozens of arrests followed over the next several months. The criminal network that had terrorized countless innocent people finally collapsed. 8 months later, the warm Tuscan sun shone over a quiet vineyard outside Florence. Luca stood beneath an old olive tree, wearing a tailored black suit. His tattoos remained visible beneath the open collar, but his expression was softer than anyone had ever seen. Julia walked toward him in a beautiful ivory dress that celebrated her very curvy plus-size figure instead of hiding it. Her radiant smile outshone every flower surrounding them. In her arms rested their healthy baby girl. Family and close friends watched quietly. Luca knelt on one knee. "I spent years believing fear was the only thing that made a man strong." He looked at Julia with tears in his eyes. "You taught me that kindness takes far more courage." He opened a small velvet box. "Julia Romano, will you marry me?" She laughed through happy tears. "You really think I'd say no after everything we've survived together?" The guests laughed. She nodded. "Yes, yes, Luca, I'll marry you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, their baby let out a tiny laugh, making everyone smile. Months later, Luca officially stepped away from the violent life that had defined him for years. Using the evidence Sofia had protected, he dismantled what remained of the corrupt network from within and invested in legitimate businesses. Together, he and Julia opened a foundation that provided shelter, legal support, and emergency assistance for women escaping abusive relationships, ensuring that others would have the chance Julia almost lost. Sometimes, The strongest people aren't the ones covered in scars or tattoos. Sometimes, they're the ones who keep choosing hope after life gives them every reason to surrender. And sometimes, all it takes is one act of unexpected compassion to change two lives forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves emotional mafia romance stories. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite moment, and let us know where you're watching from. We'll see you in the next unforgettable story.